Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Value Infinity. Today I'm going to say something a little bit controversial. What if I told you that you can eat almost anything and still be healthy? Yes guys, even those foods which you have been told to avoid. This is one truth which none of the social media gurus are, talking about. Your body is much more smarter than what you think, especially your gut. In this video, we'll try to bust some of these myths which have been, circulating around the social media and try to explore the science behind the food adaptability and how you can stop fearing your food and start trusting your body. In this video, I'll try my best to equip you with the tools to differentiate between and to cut through the noises which have been, circulated around the internet about your foods. And this is the first step towards a natural lifestyle and natural living, to differentiate between what is healthy for you and what is not healthy for you. And how I, understood to differentiate is during my own health conditions, where I, researched and also experimented on my own body about different foods and try to, identify which one worked for me and which one didn't. So let's start exploring it. Friends, nature provides us, whole food as a complete package, balanced with nutrients and, power packed with all the vitamins. But as we are living in a concrete jungle and in a social setup, it's become very difficult for us to have an access to a whole food from the nature. And that is where, in the early days there was the invention of packaged food, where whole foods were packaged in a nice wrap and it was available in the stores. But there was a problem of food spoilage, so there was a requirement of longer shelf life, which led to the addition of preservatives and other additives which could improve the shelf life. And after the invention of those preservatives being added to your food, the food started to stay longer in the shelf life, longer in the shelf, and now the food spoilage had become a thing of the past. The food almost never used to get spoiled, but your health did. After this came the concept of profitability and optimizing output of the products to earn maximum margins per product. So this resulted in the companies using one product's waste as another product's raw material. In other words, one single raw material started producing multiple products, which significantly increased the profit margins. So let's take example for the milk, which used to be available in the earlier days. So milk was supplied as a whole milk with, as given by the mother nature, which had a very low shelf life. But then, as science increased and as there was a requirement for, longer shelf life, they started to process the whole milk. So what they did is they spun the milk in centrifuge to separate fat from the milk. Then it is further processed to produce butter and, margarine, the fat which is extracted. And the milk which has been stripped is then, added with some other fats and vitamins. It is then homogenized, pasteurized, added with some preservatives, and then it is sold in the markets as homogenized milk with added power of vitamins and minerals. They didn't stop there. They also started using some of the leftover whey which was created during the process and further process it as whey protein. Some of the leftovers were used for making condensed milk, and some of them was used to make cheese. Guys, you just look at your the commercially available cheese labels, and some cheese brands may have these ingredients as label. They might have milk solids. It is like neither milk nor a powdered milk powder. It's basically milk solids, which is basically derived from such processes. Or they may have cheese identicals as their ingredients for a cheese product. So just you can imagine a single raw material giving them around 4 to 5 products, and in some cases even more than that. So yet again, you will be ending up with the question: are these foods which are available in the stores all bad for you? So the real answer is no. You can consume almost everything and still be healthy, because your gut microbiome, as I was discussing in my previous video, that your gut and your body is much more smarter to adapt with whatever food you consume than you think. So it can handle most of the difficulties or most of the food which ends up inside your stomach. But you will have to be a bit wise in choosing what ends up on your dinner table. and we'll try to understand those differences, further. So guys, for you to make these choices right, you know, I would like to share my personal experiences that I followed to, choose healthy at the same time, not worrying too much about what ends up in my dinner table. So to ease this situation, I personally, based on my personal experiences, classified the foods which are available in the supermarket shelves into 5 basic categories. This is not the conventional textbook categorization, but based on my experience to choose the food right, I classified these available foods into 5 categories. The first one which I categorized is a packaged food. The second one is processed food. The third one is a processed ready to eat food. The fourth one is refined foods. And the fifth one is ultra refined foods. So these are the 5 basic categorizations which you need to keep your mind while choosing the products. So let's now take a deep dive into every single category and try to understand what are the products in these categories and how best you can differentiate. So now let's look into the first category, which is packaged food. So as the name suggests, this includes all the foods which are just cleaned or polished or maybe dehusked and then packed for your convenience and ease of use. These are actually the best bet. Use them as much as possible, irrespective of what is the source. You don't have to worry about organic source or from an regular farming. Is it GMO or non-GMO? Does it have various kinds of pesticides, insecticides were used on them or not? You don't have to worry much, because washing will remove most of the pesticides. And as far as GMO is concerned, if the plant has end up in the shelf, then it is 100% good to go. And in case of meat and meat products, it's not that important to focus on the source, whether the animal was free ranging or maybe grass fed, whether it was given any antibiotics or maybe injected with some other hormones or chemicals on them. It has actually a minimal to very less impact on your health, and most of it is mitigated by your body. Remember, if the plant or animal had survived or thrived to end up in the shelves of the store, then their systems would have neutralized it long before it was packaged. And if they couldn't survive, then they would have perished long back and not end up in your store shelves. So you don't have to worry much. It may almost cause no harm to your body, or maybe very little, which will be taken care by your body. So this category includes whole pulses, millets, grains, peanuts, corns, and a lot of packaged meats and other forms of goods which are slightly cleaned or maybe packaged as it is. All the packaged chopped diced vegetables and many more, which is just they have been packed by very minimal process. It is just they have been packed for the ease of use, or maybe ease of storage inside the stores. So guys, let's now talk about the second food category, which is processed food. So as the name suggests, it has been processed to a certain extent, before it was packaged and available in the stores. These items are actually partially processed for the ease of use before packaging, and these are a real convenience, as we don't have time for whatever reasons to process it at our homes. So these may include flour of certain grains, flour of millets, maybe chips, fries, pickles, cookies, biscuits, noodles, which are all partially they have taken certain raw materials, partially processed it, added with certain flavoring agents and stuff, and then packaged as a processed food. But in this category, I would like you to just focus on one small thing. All these partially processed food should have minimal preservatives or no preservatives, preferably involving dry ingredients, because wherever you find the word preservatives, you should always be a bit cautious. So in this category, you will have to keep only those food processed food items which are dry, which have dry ingredients and does not involve large quantities of preservatives. In this case, you don't have to worry about all those raw materials, as discussed earlier. They will not, as long as there are minimal preservatives, they may not cause much damage as portrayed by the internet. It is good to go, safe to be consumed, even if the source were GMO or maybe not of very high quality. Still, it's good to go. The next food category, as per my classification, is processed ready to eat food products. So as I discussed in my previous category, like processed food, there you can keep most of the dry ingredient processed foods. So this category involves all those wet ready to eat food items which are available on the. So these are actually ready to eat products with minimal or no cooking required, and most of the time it's all wet ingredients. Like you make sure that you include all those wet ingredients, ready to eat products in this categories. So these products are a real cause of caution. Don't be worried too much, but you need to uh, you have to be approaching this with a caution, as they are most of the time loaded heavily with multiple variants of preservatives. They may also have chemical equivalents or flavoring agents. They may also have colors which are food colors so called, but chemically derived, which can cause damage. They may have texture and look enhancers, which is yet again certain chemicals which improves the look and feel of the product. And when you consume these chemicals and you start putting them into your body for a very long period of time, it can overwhelm your system and start creating issues with your normal running of your body systems. So my request would be try to uh, exercise caution while approaching these products. Use it minimally, like all those wet ready to eat products like mayos, sauces, where there is the texture, the thickness, consistency, everything is managed with some chemical or or some additives. So always exercise caution while selecting these food items. So this, even pastries, chocolate syrups, all those salad dressings which are available ready to be used, they might be certain products may be coming out of a fermentation process, but to stabilize it and to make it shelf friendly with longer shelf life, they do have a lot of a variety of preservatives which could be dangerous for your body. So what I would suggest is, if like you're in a situation where you don't have any other options to consume them, without which you cannot manage, then you don't have a choice, you can go with it. But you can always look for an alternative which you can make at home. Whenever there is a seasonal fruits or maybe vegetables available, you can try to preserve them naturally in your own kitchen. Now let's discuss the fourth category of food, which as per my categorization, and I cannot emphasize enough, it's as per my personal experience I have categorized these, and not the textbook way of categorization, is refined foods. So these foods are mostly they are dry ingredients, and they are derived out of some whole food items. For example, you can take is all-purpose flours or maybe corn flour. It's basically the endosperm of the wheat, or maybe the corn or the grains which they have been extracted out of. So there is a small process through which it is extracted, but it still has all the good properties of the main ingredient with which it has been extracted, but in a much more lower quantities or state. Yet they have all the nutrients which your body can extract, or maybe your gut microbiome can help you extract those nutrients, and are good to go. And its major purpose is to enhance the look and feel of the products which are made from them. So in my opinion, they are good to go as long as they are not being added or loaded with artificial vitamins or maybe preservatives. Now the fifth one, which is ultra refined foods. So these food products include oils, white sugar, or any other product where large quantities of raw material or whole food item is processed to derive a smaller quantity of end products. So if you take an example, like oil seeds have a range of maybe 15% to around 30% of oil in it. So which means around 3 to 4 kgs of seeds will give you 1 liter of oil. Or maybe to look into the similarity, like if you want 1 kg of maybe 100 grams of sugar, you need to process 1 kilogram of sugar cane. Or if you want to take another example, like if you take 2 liters of milk, when processed, will give you 100 grams of whey protein. Yet another example could be 7 to 10 kgs of olives are used to produce 1 liter of olive oil. Actually, you can search the internet. There are many more examples which you can come across in the internet, where you can identify like a larger quantity of raw material being used to produce, it's ultra refined to make sure it produces the a smaller quantity of the outcome product. So these could be categorized under ultra refined products. So these are also not to be consumed with a fear, because whenever you use a ultra refined product, what we fail to understand is that in nature it's practically impossible for us to consume these many quantities in one go. For example, if you consume 50 ml of olive oil, just imagine it's not practically possible to eat 500 grams of olives at one go. So you will, in nature, like in a natural setup, it's very difficult for you to consume in one stretch 500 grams of olives. And when you are consuming 50 ml of olive oil, your mind is tricked by your own body to feel as if you're not using much of an oil. But in reality, you in nature you are consuming a large quantity of the raw material with which it is extracted. So in this category, the biggest concern is whenever you consume a tablespoon of sugar, or maybe you drizzle your salads with some olive oil, you fail to understand that if you are consuming the same whole food form of that product which you are using, it is very difficult for your body to actually ingest it at one stretch. So the bottom line is, whenever you're using any products which come under this ultra refined category, keep this in mind that you will have to always use it judiciously, but not with fear, but because your body can handle those high fat contents effortlessly. But you make sure that you exercise caution and use it judiciously. So guys, my humble request is that just keep these 5 food categories in mind while you choose your grocery list from your stores. You know, my suggestion would be, try to make them at home like our ancestors used to do it. Whenever there was any seasonal fruit or vegetable which was available in abundance, they used to use natural techniques to preserve them and cherish it throughout the year when those fruits or vegetables were not available. So I can guarantee you that rather than buying these preservative laden processed ultra processed foods, these naturally preserved your own at home will taste 100 times better than these artificially laden foods. So you can try to sun dry whichever foods are available and store them in an airtight jar, or maybe you can pickle them, or maybe you can use any other technique of preservation which your ancestors used to use, and enjoy it throughout the seasons. So friends, the bottom line is, like, your body is capable enough to handle any kinds of foods which are ingested. Your body has the capability to adapt, and also your gut microbiome has the capability to derive all those nutrients out of whichever food you ingest. The only point which I would request you to adhere to is, make sure that you avoid food products which are loaded with preservatives, because most of the cases there is a cocktail of preservatives which have been added to the food to make it longer shelf life products. So that is one point which you need to take care of, because your digestion process is not just the breaking down of food. There are a lot of microbes which are involved to further break down the food and also derive the nutrients. And whenever you consume a high chemical laden or maybe preservative laden foods, it directly impacts your gut microbiome, resulting in a poor digestion or poor breakdown, or deriving of nutrients by the microbiome because of these preservatives. So the only point which you need to keep in mind is, as much as possible, unless and until there is an extreme dire situation where you don't have any other options, try to avoid any processed, ultra processed or ultra refined products which are laden with higher levels of preservatives. And that is the only thing which you need to keep in mind. Rest everything, despite being organic, inorganic, GMO, non-GMO, or where you're not sure of the source, everything could be handled effortlessly by your gut microbiome. That is the bottom line of the entire this classification. Guys, if you scroll through the internet, or maybe watch a lot of YouTube videos, or maybe content which are available on the social media, The biggest point propagated is the food fear. Every week you tune into any of the channels and you will find there is a new rule which has been propagated, based on their own conveniences. At times they say, avoid dairy. Sometimes they say avoid meat. Some says, completely stop using sugars, or maybe, try to stay away from gluten. There are so many food rules which is, propagated every single week. But if you dig, deep within, actually, restrained or restricted diets put more strain in your body than consuming, that piece of cake, or possibly maybe eating a food which is a GMO, or maybe, which is not an organic, source food product. And when your body is, stressed with so many rules around, it directly affects your digestion. And trust me, guys, these, rules, or maybe these restrictions will further diminish your digestion and absorption. So it's better to, be free of fear and eat whichever food is available on the table, rather than, eating with worry, or maybe, the dilemma of, am I eating the right food product? Guys, let me ask you this question. Which one do you feel is better? A healthy meal which is eaten in a stress and guilt feeling, or a simple meal which you have eaten in peace and joy? Your answer would be definitely a simple meal eaten with peace and joy. So it's not just what you eat, it's how your body processes it. So next time, whenever you are eating, focus more on, are you chewing your food well? Or are you in a deep calm state while you are eating a meal? Look into how your gut microbiome is. Is it healthy? Is it in the right proportion? Are you sleeping well and eliminating your waste properly? Actually, these are the, points which you need to keep in mind, rather than, eating what kind of food, like, raw food, vegan, keto, or organic. So what is the take home message, when you analyze all these factors? Is number one, stop fearing your food. Don't worry about, what source it has come from, or whether it is organic, or it is non-GMO, or maybe keto, or maybe, vegan, or any other form. Because these worries will further impair your digestion and make you, weak, than eating something without any fear or without any constraints in your mind. The number two, the most important take home message is, your gut has a trillion army available in it as your, second line of support, which is in a symbiotic relationship with you. And they have the capability to derive, break down, ferment any kinds of food, and derive all those essential vitamins, B vitamins, vitamin K2, and other minerals out of those food, whichever food source you consume. They can handle all those. The only point which you need to keep in mind is that whenever you consume something, just look into whether it will support your gut microbiome, which is your most important and second line of support, or it may cause damage to it. This is the only point which you need to keep in mind while buying your, your pantry from the stores. And the third most important point is, whenever you sit on the dinner table, you make sure that you chew your food properly and focus on how you, the process of eating, rather than worrying that what is available on the dinner table. Your body is capable enough to handle every single food which you consume. Guys, I'm confident that I could bust some of the myths which you had in back of your mind about what to eat and what not to eat, which has been propagated in the social media. In my next video, I'll be discussing about the gut-mouth axis, wherein your mouth acts as a gateway to populate the bacteria inside your gut, and how your body adapts itself to specific bacteria, which is, responsible to break down those specific foods which you eat. So guys, stay tuned for our next video. Guys, if this video gave you some clarity or relief from all those confusions which is around the social media, then do give this video a thumbs up, and also subscribe to our channel Value Infinity, and share it with your family and friends so that they can also, get benefited out of our content. Do drop in your comment below whether you had any kinds of such fears because of, some of the health recommendations which you came across on the social media. So guys, together let's bring back the trust on your body rather than, to the social media trends. Until next time, Trust your gut, live naturally, and stay radiant. Thanks for watching. Tada.